Hi there, it's Carol with Carol B Crafts. Today we'll be doing project number 4 in my Candy Cane Season monthly club kit. You can get the details on how you can participate in my monthly club kits on my website www.cutstampcreateclub.com. Now this is an adorable wiper card, which means it as you pull it out like this, you have a little decoration or flag coming up. And those are 3 little candy canes with a green bow on them. Now if you didn't take the club kit this month, that's okay. I'll give you the dimensions and supplies as we go along. Okay, the first thing you need to know is that these 3 projects, project 4, 5, and 6, come from the same sheet of paper. So in your kit you will have either the bottom half or the top half of this paper, and depending on which half you have, you will need to cut your paper differently. And it's important that you go ahead and cut your paper for all 3 projects so that you have paper for each project and you won't be left without the paper that you need. So I'll start by showing you how to cut the bottom, and then I'll show you how to cut the top. So whichever one you have, that's what you want to get right now. Okay, so you'll get your piece of DSP, and I cut them in half. You get a half a sheet with your kits. So you'll have a 12 by 6 inch sheet. Now with the scallop on the bottom, we'll start on the left side. Now you want to measure 5 inches on your left side here, and that will be our first cut. So now this piece is going to go for our wiper card, but we're not going to cut it yet. The piece that we're going to cut now is going to be the DSP that wraps around this box. So we're going to turn it with the images going this way, and we're going to go to 2 3/8, and we're going to cut 2 3/8 across. Now this piece is going to be, we're going to flip it around and we're going to use that for our little note card. So we'll do that one in just a minute. We'll finish with this one here, which is going to be for our little chapstick box. So what we want to do now is we want to turn it this way. So you're going to measure from the little pole. I'm guessing that's the North Pole. You're going to measure 3.5 inches. So this little pole side should be on your 3.5 inch mark, and then you're going to cut. And now this is the piece that you will need to save to go around your box. Next we're going to cut the DSP for our little note card, and we want that to be 2 by 4. So we'll go ahead and cut a 2. It's long ways this way, or portrait. We're going to cut 2. Then we're going to turn it landscape and cut 4. So now we have our 2 by 4 that's going to go for this card. So we can set that aside for later. And then lastly we're actually going to cut for our wiper card. So we're going to measure from the side opposite of the scallops 3 7/8. So we don't need this piece here. Then we're going to turn it landscape. Well, it actually probably is easier to turn it like this with the scallop on the left. And we're going to measure first 2 pieces that are 5/8 inches wide, and I'm going to use this side of my trimmer to measure. So I'll find my half and then I'll go up an eighth, and that will be 5/8. So that's 1 5/8. And now I'm going to cut another 5/8. So now I have my 2 5/8. And now I need another piece that is going to be 4 5/8. And it's going to be easier for me to cut it this way because I don't want that. So I'm going to cut 4 5/8 this way. So I'm measuring 4 5/8. I don't need this, and that will give me my panel for my card. So now we will cut if you have the scallops at the top. So if you have the scallops at the top, you're actually going to start with your paper with the scallops at the bottom, and you're going to cut 4 3/8. Now this is the piece that we will use for our wiper card. Now we're going to take this piece and we're going to cut it from the scallop part here at the top. We're going to cut it at 2 3/8. This is the piece we'll use for our mini note card. Now we're going to cut this time from the elf, and we're going to cut 3 1/2. And this is the piece that you will use for your chapstick box. The scallop will be at the top instead of at the bottom. Now we're going to cut a piece from this that was left over. We're going to cut 2 by 4. So we'll start out with 2. And this is portrait. Now we're going to turn it landscape, and we're going to cut it at 4. And this is going to be for our little mini note card. It'll go there. So we'll set that aside for that. Now we're going to cut for our wiper card. We're going to turn it portrait with it lengthwise, and we're going to measure 3 7/8 on the side without the scallops. And we're going to cut down 3 7/8. And we won't use this piece. Now we're going to turn it, and we're going to cut 5/8, and I'll be measuring on this side, and another 5/8. And now I'm going to flip it around to the side without the scallops, and I'm going to measure 4 5/8. I had to check. Didn't want to do the wrong thing. So 4 5/8. And then we don't need this piece. So now you should have your DSP. You'll have a piece that is 3 7/8 by 4 5/8. Two pieces that are 3 7/8 by 3 7/8 by 5/8 each. From your candy striped DSP, you're going to cut 2 pieces 1 1/2 inch by 6 inches. From your Poppy Parade, you're going to cut 2 pieces that are 4 1/8 by 4 7/8, and then 2 pieces that are 4 1/8 by 7/8, and 2 pieces that are 4 1/8 by 5/8. From your regular Whisper White, you're going to need a piece that's 4 5/8 by 3 7/8, a piece that's 2 inches by 4 1/4, a piece that's 2 inches by 3 1/2, and a piece that's 2 inches by 1 3/4. You'll need a piece of garden green 4 1/4 by 1 1/2, 2 pieces of thick Whisper White 4 1/4 by 6 3/4, and you'll want to make sure that they are the same width. Sometimes when you cut cardstock, they aren't the same width. So I had to actually take off just a little bit to make sure that they were perfectly even. You're also going to need 1 large and 2 small of the red enamel dots. For your inks, you're going to need Garden Green and Poppy Parade. Next, we're going to stamp our 'Tis the Season on our 3.5 by 2 inch piece of Whisper White. And we want to be sure that we leave room here for the 3 red dots. We're going to make a little flag, banner-like flag, and then put our 3 dots there. So we want to be sure we leave plenty of room for those dots. Okay, we have our 'Tis the Sweet Season. On our piece of 2 by 4 1/4 Whisper White, we're going to stamp our candy cane in Poppy Parade. On the 4 1/4 by 1 1/2 inch Garden Green, you want to stamp the outline bow stamp with Garden Green ink. And you want to stamp it several times so that you get a nice dark image. Next, on our 4 5/8 by 3 7/8 back sentiment panel, you'll want to stamp in Garden Green, Have Yourself a Sweet Little Christmas, and you want to be sure that you leave room for the little holly leaves here in the corner. Now I'm going to stamp with the solid bow stamp up here in the right hand corner, and I want to get a light ink and then I want to get a dark ink outline. So I'm going to go in the center of my ink pad with an old bone folder that I have, or you could use the round part of a plastic spoon, and I'm going to move some of that ink to the side so that in the center I don't have as much ink, and that will give me a lighter image. So now I have the light image of my bow, and I'm going to come back in with the darker part of the ink. Now we're going to line up the outline of the bow stamp and stamp it several times for a darker image. So we're going to do the same thing with the ivy stamp. Now this is the solid ivy stamp, and we're going to put it down here near the base where the leaf stems are near the base of the candy cane, and we're going to pick it up and stamp it lightly with just the light ink. And if your ink is pulled back in, you might want to take your bone folder and push it aside again. Now we're going to take the outline of the ivy stamp, the holly stamp, and we're going to line it up and stamp it several times. The last thing we have to do is stamp the outline of the candy cane, and we're going to do that in Poppy Parade. Okay, we're done with our stamping. Next we're going to punch, and we're going to punch out our bows from the right to the left. Then we're going to punch our candy cane. So now we have our candy cane and our bows. Now we're going to score our pieces of 4 1/4 by 6 3/4 thick Whisper White cardstock. We're going to score first at 1 inch, and then we're going to flip it over and score at 1 3/4, and do the same on the other one. We'll do 1 inch, flip it over, and do 1 3/4. We're going to find our valleys, and we're going to fold away from us and use our bone folder to crease our folds. So these folds will be going in opposite directions. So now you have your folds, but we want them to be like this. This is going to make your movement part. So this will be the front, because the fold is on the left. So this is our front, so we'll start to build our front of our card. Okay, I put the Poppy Parade cardstock on the 2 pieces of card base. This is the longer piece here. This is the 7/8 of an inch and the 5/8 of an inch. And this will be our front. The fold goes on the left side. Okay, I put one of the pieces, the thinner pieces, let's see, that's 5/8 inch wide. I put one of them here, and then I put the panel there. And now I'm going to do here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put that there and the panel, the white panel here. And again, the fold is going to be on the left side. So now I have my 2 panels decorated. I'll finish the top, I'll finish the front once I get the mechanism done. I'm not going to put this part on until I get the mechanism in place. Okay, I have the 2" by 1 3/4 inch piece of Whisper White, and that's for our flag, and I'm going to measure it. I'm going to put it here in this corner. In the top left corner, I'm going to measure about 5/8 of an inch. So I have 5/8 of an inch from each one of those top left corner, and I'm going to get my scoring tool. Now I'm going to score. I'm going to find a score line and match these 2 marks up, and then just score, hold it still, score from each mark, and then I'm going to flip it over, find that score line, and score on the other side lightly. And that's going to loosen up the fibers. And what that means is I'll be able to fold this back and forth relatively easy. I'm going to even get my bone folder and crease the fold. And I don't want to get too rough with it because I don't want to break it down so much that it tears. But I do want it to be able to flip back and forth relatively easy. Now this is the front of my card, and I want to flip it over, face it towards me and flip it over. And then I'm going to find that top left corner and put it, I'm going to adhere just the corner to this center part right here. I'm going to put some glue on this. And then I want to make sure that my fold is on the in between these 2 lines. And then I'm just going to hold it in place till it dries. I also want to make sure that it's level here near the top. So we'll let that dry. While that's drying, we'll go ahead and punch out our candy canes. So we're going to put our 1.5 by 6 inch candy cane striped fuzzy DSP in there and punch 2, and we'll get our other piece. We only need 3, so we'll punch 1 more. So now we have our 3 pieces of candy cane for our flag part, for this wiper for the flag. Now you want to give this plenty of time to dry before we go to the next step. Okay, so I let that dry a good bit. I'm still not going to fold it over though because I don't want it to stick. What I want to happen now is, and I'm going to make sure that's nice and straight there, I want to put my candy canes on my wiper, and I'm going to use glue to do that, and I'm just going to put them on the wiper. So basically what I've done is I've taken my wiper and I flipped it up. So here it is. I flipped it up, and now I'm going to put my candy canes on it with some glue. Okay, I'm going to let all of this set for a good 15 minutes. All this glue so I can clean up the extra. Okay, so if you have a little, once it's good and dry, if you have some adhesive, you can use an eraser, pencil eraser, to erase the excess adhesive off. And then you might want to also erase if you have any here along your candy canes. So now we're ready to put our sides together, and you have folds on one side and then folds on the other side, and then this is how your card is going to work. Now if you have trouble with, and you think that this is going to catch, you can kind of bend your flap so that it's got a curve in it, and that will help keep the candy canes from catching. You can also bend your candy cane a little bit too. You might need to bend your candy canes. But once you get them bent really good, they won't catch anymore. So next we're going to put these two pieces together, and we're going to use tear and tape to do that. So I've used tear and tape, and you can see that on the outside fold, the 1-inch flap, I've pretty much covered those really well with the tear and tape. And I did that because this is going to use a lot of, it's going to get a lot of wear and tear from the pulling. So now I'm going to take these two pieces, I'm going to take off the tear and tape and put the pieces together. I'm just going to kind of fit it together ahead of time to see if there's anything I need to be aware of, and it looks like it's going to fit pretty well. So I've removed the tear and tape from this side, but I haven't from that side, so I'm going to match these up pretty well here. And then next I'm going to remove the tear and tape from this part here and match it up. So now I've removed the tear and tape from there, and I'm just going to match up these ends here as best I can. And now I have this part, and you can see that last little candy cane wants to not go down, so I'm just going to pull it a little bit to the front like that. And now it's fine. So now we're going to decorate the front part. So actually before we decorate the front, we need to put one of our bows on this middle candy cane, and we're going to do that with glue dots. Just a couple of glue dots. Put it there on the center like that. Now we're going to decorate the front. We're going to put first our stamped candy cane about right there with some mini dimensionals. So I have my mini dimensionals, I have the backing off, and I'm just going to put that about 1 inch away from the edge of the DSP and 3/4 from the bottom here. Just somewhere like right around there. Doesn't have to be perfect. So next we're going to put our sentiment on, and we need to trim it. So we'll use our trimmer, and I'm just going to trim enough that it is even distance from the top and the bottom. Now I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to make a flag on the end by putting a marking in about 1/4 of an inch, and then from corner to center and corner to center. Now I have plenty of room for my 3 red enamel dots, but I'm going to put this on first with, now you can use, depending on how wide your, this isn't very wide, so I think I used mini dimensionals on it. This is pretty wide, so I'm going to use regular dimensionals on this one. I want to avoid where the candy cane is. So I've removed the backing, and now I'm just going to put this a little bit above the bottom and make sure that it's level across. Now it's ready for the bow. We'll put that on with glue dots. And we'll put it just about right there, wherever you like it, wherever you think it looks good. Now we'll put our enamel dots on. The big one goes first, and then the two smaller ones. Okay, just make sure they're straight across. So now we have our card. 'Tis the sweet season. And if you have a problem with some of your candy canes, you can either bend it on the inside here, bend the paper forward, and you can also bend some of the candy canes forward so that they don't catch. Okay, that's our card. This was project number 4 in my Candy Cane Season Club Kit. Check out my website, www.cutstampcreateclub, to find out how you can participate in my monthly club kits. Thanks for watching. Bye.